Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way. Do you know, Tony, I was just about to say good morning there, but it nearly is morning. We're about an hour from saying good morning, and we would be able to get away with saying that. Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the Celtic Way, where we're doing a full time reaction to Celtic's 2-0 defeat to Feyenoord. Somehow it was 2-0. It could have easily been more. Thankfully, it wasn't. Tony, just right off the bat, what did you make of tonight's proceedings? It was very much a Celtic in Europe and a microcosm, you could say. Everything that Celtic do wrong in Europe seemed to come to fruition, and they get their just rewards.
Yeah, I mean, you're up to injury time in the first half, you're competing, but he's just left frustrated by that, aren't he? I wasn't impressed by Feyenoord at all. Martin Neal said it in the studio, and I totally agreed with him. I thought they were very, very ordinary, but then Celtic just do what they do in Europe and shoot themselves in the foot either side of half time, and it's a familiar story, isn't it? You can talk about an experience all you want. You know, it's also as well, big players not turning up on the big stage.
Yeah.
Rio Hatate was terrible. Greg Taylor was terrible. You know, Callum McGregor was quiet, found wanting. Matt O'Reilly again doing the work of three midfielders in
We've
the
said
first
that
half.
before.
He can't do it all himself. He's a pick of the bunch. And then a cheap free kick given away. And then Martin O'Neill and Jermaine Jenas highlighted it in the studio. What's Kyogo doing in the wall? Brendan Rodgers says he doesn't mind players making in-game decisions, but we've got to make the right ones. The smallest man in the world turns his back to the ball, and then you're questioning Joe Hart, because I think even you and I would have fancied a dig at the goal with the amount of room he left, and he gets across, but not quick enough, and he should be getting a stronger hand to that. So I can't understand why the smallest guy is in the wall for a start, and he does what every forward does, and he turns his back to the ball as it's coming in. I think John Hartson said in commentary, you take one in the face, you take one for the team, you charge that down, you run towards it, you do not turn your back on it. And then I think Joe's positioning is suspect, to say the least.
Yep.
And then, and the red cards, I have no complaint about them. I really don't. I agree with Brendan Rodgers. Lagerbielke doesn't need to get into a wrestling match there, or a fight.
That's an
You're
experience at a high level.
Yeah, you're asking for it if you put your arm out like that, and he asked for it, and he got the answer he didn't want off the park, and owing Thiago home at no level, especially in Europe, are you going to go away? Are you going to get away with going to ground like that and a high challenge with your studs up? Sorry, it's unacceptable naivety, isn't it? Rush of blood. I know Rodgers is saying he's fully committed and he's a talented young player. You know, it's a steep learning curve, but it always seems to happen to Celtic, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
you've
it
got
seems like a.
that's
Yeah,
quite a lot
sorry,
of
what were you
players
saying?
there. That's quite a lot of players there that I've listed, Ryan, that weren't on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they
Yep.
competed very well in the first half. Right up until injury time, you gave away the free kick. You were still in the game, and with a wee bit more composure, Hatate's running through, get 20-yard shot, hits a powder puff effort, and then doesn't even look up. And he could have played his compatriot in, and Kyogo was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. These moments define you as a player.
Absolutely.
You know, they're the moments that separate the good players from the great players. Look up. You know, why smash it off the guy's shin? Just a quick glance. Kyogo's in. And again, if that's the other way around, does the Feyenoord player slip his fellow teammate in? Of course he does. It's all about being awareness. We were speaking about that before the game. Be aware in these moments. Be alive. And I'm so frustrated. There's more questions than answers. And, you know, everybody's going to go on about the transfer window was shocking and blame the board and stuff like that. But you have to say, with two or three more quality players in that lineup, could you have won that game? And I'm not talking about getting a draw. Could you have won that game? You
I
probably could have.
totally. Yeah. I
And
heard.
that's
I've got to say, and it will sound like sour grapes, unfortunately, due to the way the game transpired, and due to the fact that people were bigging up this Feyenoord team. But the real truth was that, I think that Feyenoord team could have been got at. We were hearing before the game that this was the all conquering Feyenoord team. Yes, they still won the game. There is no doubt, but they should have probably won it by more, especially when there was 9 men on the park for a good 20 minutes or so.
yeah,
That could cost Feyenoord down the line. That they didn't win by more goals. Brendan Rodgers was talking in his post-match press conference. If Celtic are still alive in the group by the final day, then that game against Feyenoord at home could be a massive, massive game in the balance of the group. Before we continue on and speak about how the game transpired, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us. We've got over 100 people watching at 11 o'clock tonight. We really do appreciate it. If you are interested in supporting everything that we do, please subscribe to the Celtic Way at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Right now on the website, we've got instant analysis from the game. Tony and I were writing during the game. We put it out about 5-10 minutes after the game. We
yeah.
endeavoured to give you the quickest content possible after the game, and we feel like we did so with that. So if you are interested, then please check that out on the website. It's at the very top of the page. It's the main story, and also we've got the Q&A from Brendan Rodgers from his press conference. Yes, it was only 2 questions long, but everything that he says is on that article. So if you are interested, please subscribe, celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel because you're really helping us. The upturn in views and the upturn in subscribers especially has been absolutely incredible over the past month or so. We couldn't do it without you. Please continue to do so. And yeah, we really do appreciate it. So yeah, Tony, I've got to be honest, first half up until that concession of the free kick and then the concession of a really, really preventable goal by Celtic standards, both in the wall and the goalkeeper failing to keep the shot out the back of the net. Celtic were in the game and arguably had the bigger chance when it came to Daizen Maeda running through. Now,
I,
I'm not one
I
for getting
was
into the...
on you go. Sorry.
I just now I'm not going to get in talking about referees because it just sounds like sour grapes. But Daizen Maeda is impeded when he's taking the shot. He gets fouled and then he almost gets punished for taking the shot by staying on his feet. He doesn't get rewarded. It almost gets punished. But that's a discussion for another day. But I thought that was one of the biggest attempts of the first half, out with the goal. The goal comes from nothing from Feyenoord. It's not through amazing play that we were hearing about Feyenoord, this total football that Arne Slot played. What I seen was a concession of a free kick and an easy goal because the goalkeeper makes an error. You can't give teams like this these opportunities.
Poor concession of a free kick. Matt's just caught the wrong side, isn't he? And tries to win the ball, but he couldn't have... He couldn't win it, obviously, and I just had a bad feeling as soon as the ball was placed. Just looked at the time and I thought it would be just like Celtic to concede here. And up until then, I thought they were competing, and had arguably, the better kind of opportunities per se, restricting Feyenoord to long range winders at goal from distance. I thought, excellent. Whatever game plan we've got, it's working. But we had to get in at 0-0 at half time. And then I also thought that the manager should have taken off Haggerty at half time.
Agree, yeah.
He was absolutely not at it at all. Just nothing was coming off from him, and nothing. And people can argue about match fitness and all that kind of stuff. He was just dreadful. His distribution was awful, and I've said before, it's my biggest criticism about him. His distribution is erratic at times, but tonight it was just non-existent. Erratic's been kind. I don't think he passed the ball to a Celtic player once.
Erratic is the sort of word you would use if he made maybe 2 or 3 good passes in the game. But every time he was on the ball, him and Taylor especially, I thought were the two main culprits. They were
the biggest culprits, not finding a Celtic jersey with a pass. And, we spoke about it before. You just cannot afford to do that on that kind of stage. Yet somehow, with so many players off it, Celtic were still in the game up until that free kick. It was, and at times they they were getting forward and causing problems. Now, I
Mhm.
thought the three front players buzzed about a lot, but didn't actually do much in a creative sense. I think your biggest outlet was going to be Maeda, wasn't he? But even then, and Palmer, I was disappointed in him. I thought he could have took the onus on a wee bit more and bring Rusty, call it what you like, but there was a couple of times he drifted inside and couldn't even get the shot away. And you're thinking, you're better than that, surely, or if you
I
can't
know
get a
he's
shot away,
better than that.
then lay it off or find a man. But he seemed to meekly give up possession at times when you thought, there was something brewing for Celtic, and that disappointed me big time. And I hate having a go at guys, but they were trusted to do a job tonight, and for 40 odd minutes it was going okay, and then again the wheels fell off the Barra big style, and a cluster of things happened. They conceded the first goal, came out in the second half. Lagerbielke gets sent off. Joe Hart, you get a break with Joe Hart saving the penalty, and Odin Thiago home gets sent off for a moment of indiscipline. Everything implodes, and then you're lucky that you didn't get hammered. A couple of flags from a tanking. So VAR kind of
Yeah,
worked in Celtic's favour. So it's a culmination of many things, but we've been in this movie before, haven't we? With Celtic
yeah,
in Europe. But I still maintain that had Celtic, maybe with another two, certainly three more quality players in the starting 11, we could have won that match. Based
yeah.
on.
I do. I agree. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Yeah. I think there's one. I think there's some praise to be had in certain performances, and we do have to get on and talk about Liam Scales again, because I've got to be honest. I've continually said, both on briefings, post match reactions, etc., any sort of podcast platform, I've said that Liam Scales just isn't good enough to be at Celtic. But he came in and he did a tremendous job tonight. He put his head where it mattered. He put the boot in when it was absolutely needed. Maybe that's his game. Maybe he isn't the best on the ball. Yes, he was playing the ball out from the back quite a few times, actually, so I'm not going to put that even on him tonight. But, out of those two, if you were to compare Lagerbielke and Scales tonight, who was the one that was the £3 million signing? If you were to tell a neutral, if you were to ask a neutral who was a £3 million signing 3-4 weeks ago, who would they say? It has been a pretty mixed start for Lagerbielke, I've got to say. It was a mixed start for Starfelt when he came in. I'm not making that parallel because they're both Swedish, but they're both defenders at the end of the day, and they're coming in relatively towards the start of the season. They both came in round about the same time. He's been thrust in. He is the first choice now, alongside whoever plays alongside him, such as Nat Phillips or Liam Scales. That might be the case that Liam Scales is now the first choice centre back. If that is the case, then I've not really got a problem, because he deserves it on merit. He's been one of Celtic's better performers over the past couple of games, 2-3 games. And I thought he was probably man of the match tonight, along with Matt O'Reilly. We could say the same in the Rangers game, but I thought he was one of the men of the match, because he put his foot in. Yes, I know it was 2-0. Yes, I know that he conceded goals, but he was brave and he stood up. And I don't think every player stood up tonight, but he was one of them.
Stood up at Ibrox, and he stood up in the Champions League against a team who were scoring goals for fun. And he can hold his head high because he did his bit, or he certainly tried to do his bit, Liam Scales. And I think that's a man who just riding the crest of a wave at the minute, and is just the confidence that Brendan Rodgers has given him by clearly saying, I trust you, you can do this. Believe in yourself a bit more, which I think a lot of players, sometimes lack, is that self-belief. But I thought Scales was excellent tonight, and I thought Matt O'Reilly was excellent in the first half. I thought if we were going to create anything, it was going to come from O'Reilly, but he needed others to step up to the plate as well. Callum McGregor was quiet, conspicuous by his absence. Rio Hatate
Up
was
and
just
down, very up and down.
anonymous, and
Yeah.
to the point of having an absolute howler, which you don't see a lot
I
about Rio
think
Hatate, but
that's his
and
biggest problem. When he plays bad, it's obvious he plays bad
yeah,
because he does make risky passes. He's not going to stop playing. He's not going to play bad and then play the safe passes. He's always going to go for the risky passes, and that's maybe to the detriment of the team. At some points tonight, he would have been better off playing in red and white because he was passing to Feyenoord players. He was creating good chances for Feyenoord due to his
yeah,
play and not passing to the Celtic players, which is really disappointing. Everybody knows how much I rate him as a player. But after a good performance, a good cameo appearance against Dundee, the levels did drop again. Now I'm hoping that is down to match fitness and not to anything else, because this is the shop window for him, as we've been talking about. This is the what would you call that? The auction, the stage, the biggest stage, the where he can show off, where he can show he can play at that level. And tonight, I think he flattered to deceive. I thought he was very, very poor. He's the difference maker for Celtic in a lot of games, and unfortunately, he was the difference maker in a negative sense because he didn't get on the ball and do what he was supposed to do. Matt O'Reilly, as you said, was doing the job of three players. Cal McGregor had another poor night. Maybe that was buoyed by the fact that he got a yellow card early on. I know people were complaining about that yellow card. I thought it was a yellow card because he's holding on to him for a good 2-3 seconds. Doesn't matter if he's holding on to him with his hands or his legs. He had him coiled up and he wasn't going anywhere. Thought it was a Stonewall yellow card, and then Lagerbielke with a yellow card. When a centre-back in Europe for Celtic, I don't know about you, but when I see a centre-back get a yellow card in Europe, I worry because you know what our defenders are like. It seems to be... Now, a defender could make no mistakes in his career before joining Celtic, but they inherit this gene, this almost self-destruct gene of getting themselves into silly situations in which the team can be at risk of losing, going down a man or down a goal. They nearly went down both if it wasn't for Joe Hart's save.
yeah.
But yeah, the game was over. Regardless of Joe Hart's save or not, it was pretty much... it didn't affect the result whatsoever. It was over.
We three players, to my knowledge, that turned up tonight: Liam Scales, Matt O'Reilly, and Alistair Johnston. To my knowledge, you can't have three players getting past marks. 3
out of 11 is not a good score in any test.
And if people want to dispute that, so be it. That's the game I'm watching. I always say that's the game I watch with my eyes. But those three, in my opinion, stepped up tonight. Your Sons of Scotland agrees. Correct, Tony. So you obviously watched the same game as me. Sean Stout, agree with that. Fine, that's cool. Others don't, but that's... and some people in the comment section are disputing, what Matt O'Reilly, what he contributed tonight. But Matt O'Reilly covers some amount of ground. He's got those long legs that he just intercepts from nowhere. How many interceptions did he have tonight? A lot.
I've not got the
Certainly
stats on me just yet, but I'm very
certainly that
interested
first
to
half.
see.
It looked at a lot in the first half, and then he tried to, kind of get forward and link with the forwards as often as he could. But again, Hatate was having a nightmare tonight. Taylor was having a nightmare. McGregor was just largely anonymous. So he was in that kind of midfield area trying to do a lot on his Todd, but not for the first time. Again, as we've
Ray of light in the midfield. He
So
definitely was. I think he's so important to this team.
That's what I'm seeing.
Paramount.
And if people aren't seeing that, then fine. You have your every right to hold that opinion too, but that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I saw tonight. I saw a Celtic team with three players in a Champions League night, the opening Champions League night. Three players stepped up to the plate: Liam Scales, Matt O'Reilly, and Alistair Johnston, and the rest were, the game largely passed them by, all of them.
And even then, but with not with Matt O'Reilly, with Alistair Johnston, if that goal gets allowed, the one where he basically headers to the Feyenoord attacker, and you're saying different about his performance. Yes, he had a couple of really good tackles in the first half. But, I think that flag definitely helped him in that regard, because his header was a tired header, and that might be down to all the ground that he was covering during the game. But he headers it into a really, really dangerous area, but not in a good way. He headers it into the danger zone for Feyenoord. You know, it wasn't an ideal situation for him, but he got away with it. He probably deserved to get away with it given his performance on the night. I'm not too worried about him, and I'm not too worried about Matt O'Reilly either. I think if there's anyone you criticise in that midfield, it's Rio Haggerty, to a lesser extent Cal McGregor, but I don't think you can. But it's people's opinions whether or not you criticise Matt O'Reilly. But I thought he was arguably Celtic's best player on the night. He was trying his hardest. He does so much thankless running off the ball.
Yeah.
He's hungry for the Champions League. He said it in his press conferences. He wants to play in the Champions League. He looked like a player that wanted to play in the Champions League tonight. It's just disappointing that maybe the rest of the midfield didn't turn up as much as he did. If the rest of the midfield had played like Matt O'Reilly had played, then it might have been a different result tonight. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And we're making the point that we wanted Rio Haggerty to start because he can be a difference maker, but he was a difference maker in, as you say, in a negative way tonight. And I would have taken him off at half time to save him from himself because he was putting Celtic in danger with his erratic passing, his wayward passing. And that's a side of his game that, you know, he might think he's built for bigger and better things, but trust me, bigger and better clubs will be watching and thinking, nah, not at this moment in time. You're not ready. You know what I mean? That's a performance that says to me he is not ready. He's still learning his trade. He's got a lot to learn at Celtic and would be wise to shut off that noise and focus on his football with Celtic and let all the external noise be that external, but knuckle down again and get back to the levels we know that you can play at. You know, and I was disappointed with him. Disappointment doesn't cover it, but it's certainly a euphemism for the things I was shouting at the telly, you know what I mean? And I agree with Martin O'Neill solidly. He sat there in that studio after the game and said that they were average. Feyenoord were an average team. They were supposed to be this slick scoring machine and, you know, the next big thing. But for 40 minutes, Celtic kind of went toe-to-toe with them in terms of even allowing for the fact that lots of players were off the boil. You know, so, and I thought we get to half time, what a chance they had. And I thought Brendan Rodgers would make the necessary adjustments. But 1-0 kind of forced his hand a bit. I think he thought Hatate couldn't get any worse in the first half and then maybe take the game to them and be the difference maker, get you back in. But within the hour, the game was gone. And you're just like, wow, it was, you know, you're just thinking, just like getting the rug swiped from you, wasn't it? I could not believe that two players had been sent off by the hour mark just after. I'm just like,
it's always a horrible graphic on the top left-hand side, and you see those two red rectangles or two red squares. Usually that's when a team has just completely lost the plot. I'm not saying Celtic completely lost the plot, but they did. You know, they were avoidable red cards. A bit unlucky with Lagerbielke because it's one of those ones where, you know, you give the second yellow, it's not going to get overturned. It's one of those ones where the contact is there, VAR isn't going to see a clear and obvious error. And, you know, despite Lagerbielke, that was a quite a sad shot. You know, the Feyenoord fans waving at him as he was waiting to see his fate and the keep. But the second one, Odin home, it had to go for that.
I have no complaints with Lagerbielke because he swung out an arm. I agree with the manager completely. He doesn't need to get involved in a fight. Just shepherd it back to the goalkeeper. It was running through to Joe Hart. Well, the guy might have muscled him down, but Joe Hart was getting that ball because he wasn't in control of it, the Feyenoord player. So what does he do? He tries to buy a foul off the big man. The big man buys what he's selling by swiping him like that. He has a swipe. So I can't, you know, I can't legislate for naivety on that stage. That's just stupidity. You know, we see the same things every year. That I was talking about learning, right? Okay, Lagerbielke wasn't at the club last year, but guys need to learn. It's just
there's a lot of resets if that's the case, because it seems as if the same mistakes are getting made year upon year upon year, and that is a problem. But do you want me to give you a positive? and all this negative that's came out in
Go on.
this game, Celtic are still very much in this group.
Of course,
You
the
know,
one each draw and
that one each
in
draw. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the
goalkeeper
goalkeeper
scored.
scores a header
Yeah,
in the 94th minute,
it's a
95th minute
cracker.
actually. Yeah, and so yeah, the group is wide open. Feyenoord are obviously at the top with 3 points because of their
But
win against Celtic, but
but what was I talking about today and yesterday?
they'll all
And all,
take points off each other.
and also your home form is now going to be crucial because you now have to beat Lazio at home and throw a real spanner in that group and the works of that group. There's no two ways about it. And your home games could come down to your home form, and you're going to have to raise it quite considerably. And
Yeah.
so I had no qualms about that. I genuinely think that if Brendan Rodgers is right, there's a lot of football to be played. But if they can get to game 6 and it's game on, then Celtic do have a fighting chance, more than a fighting chance, puncher's chance, as they say sometimes, of doing something in that group if it all comes down to that. Because I wasn't that impressed with Feyenoord tonight. Unimpressed with Celtic in the second half, certainly, or from the injury time in the first half onwards. So just I can accept getting beat, but see when it's naivety and shooting yourself in the foot and you come away so frustrated, and people talking about the referee and all that. The referee wasn't to blame for tonight. Celtic were the architects of their own downfall, and certain players not turning up, and it's on repeat, isn't it? You've watched this movie so many times, and I don't know about you, but it just pains you greatly, doesn't it? You sit there and it pains you. You
It's the
you
hope that
get
kills you. It really
so
is the hope that kills you.
high, and you try not to get angry. You try to come on this and be lucid and give your opinion in a kind of constructive way, but it's very hard not to get angry and be really destructive about tonight because you just think, you think about the transfer window and could there have been players brought in, a couple of more quality players. That's for those upstairs to argue the toss over, and also the manager, did he identify any other players in the window that might have, could have, would have, should have been brought in? But I wasn't that impressed with Feyenoord tonight, and I wasn't that impressed in the lead up either. I kept saying it's no Real Madrid you're playing, it's no Barcelona, it's not.
I know.
They were building them up as something special, and I'm just thinking, okay, I'll wait and make up my own mind. And I think I don't know. I thought I'd be interested to see what happens in Game 6 now, because I think they're there for the taking, and it just depends how
Yeah,
many points Celtic can accumulate before that. And I get back to it, our home games are now going to be of vital and crucial importance if we want to do anything in this group. Because
that Lazio game, the next Lazio game looks like a must-win at this point already because the next two are against Atletico.
Watching Celtic away in Europe is just a really painful process. It pains you as a supporter to watch it because you just know, it's coming, don't you? And I was just about to text. Well, I think I did text you, doing okay. I was kind of like doing okay, and I was kind of like ticking down to. But I was saying Haggerty was off it, wasn't I?
That's an error. That's an error that you can't make. We've been to this rodeo before, Tony.
There's also we were discussing what we were going to write about, and just as the free kick was given, and then I had a foreboding sense of doom about the free kick, and sure enough, and I just it pains you greatly. It really is it's a difficult sport watching Celtic away from home in Europe in the past 20 years. The sporadic success, Lazio, stuff like that, and you always think, oh, is this the one that, you turn the corner and, you can go away and win. And Neil Lennon proved that with his team that they could go away. They won that group, the Europa League group, So I just sporadic moments apart. I don't see how and when it's going to get better. Do you, Celtic away in Europe?
Certainly away in Europe, it's unfortunately you speculate to accumulate with things like this. A lot of it can't be helped because Celtic's reinforcements, or two of their biggest reinforcements in defence, are away. I would already say that Mike Nawrocki, despite only playing about 3 or 4 games, when everybody's fit and firing, he'd be number 2 besides Carter Vickers, Lagerbielke. Mixed start to his Celtic career so far, you could say. Had a bit of a iffy game at Ibrox, to say the least. He did recover. Had a good second half against Dundee, but Dundee weren't really up to much attacking wise. And then poor decision making. You tackle somebody through the back, it's going to be a yellow card. That's just the norm in Europe. It doesn't matter if you get the ball. If you tackle from behind, you're going to get a yellow card. Now, I thought the referee was quite inconsistent with a couple of things, but you give him an opportunity. You give him an opportunity. You give him a decision to make in that regard. If you go through somebody like that, it's going to be a yellow card. The second yellow, I think it's just a byproduct of giving the penalty as well. Once you give the penalty, I was just waiting for the second yellow to come out because it just compounds the misery almost. I thought that double jeopardy rule was gone away with, but I think that might be because it's straight reds you can't give in the box, but unless it's like a goal scoring opportunity.
And the irony of ironies, Joe Hart saves a penalty.
Yeah, I know it's and you want to give him credit, but by the time it was a good save. But the thing is, in the first half, we can't go away from the fact that in the first half, when it was nothing each, when it was going to half time, one, the wall has failed to prepare.
Nope. You've muted yourself, Ryan.
Can you hear
me? Yeah. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back in the room.
Sorry about that, guys. I guess I don't know what happened there. I think it might be down to me charging up my laptop as well as being on the microphone. But failing to prepare is preparing to fail with regard to the wall. The wall wasn't prepared right. Joe Hart was far too away to one side, and then he gives him too much to do. Gets a hand on it, but he still doesn't save. He doesn't fully save the shot, and the ball goes in the back of the net. So preventable, especially so close to half time. Yeah, just disappointing. As much as you want to praise him for his save, which was a good save, the game was over at that point. I don't want to say there was no pressure on him because there's still pressure in a Champions League game. But Celtic were down to 10 men. It was basically a foregone conclusion that Celtic were going to lose that game at that point, even if he saved the penalty and it was 1-0. With 10 men to keep, you were going to get very, very few opportunities, even less so with 9 men on the park, which is what transpired. Yes, credit for the save, but the fact that we were in that position in the first place was down to Joe Hart not making the original save.
Yeah, I mean, and go back to it was a cheap free kick to give away by Matt O'Reilly. Again, another learning curve. You just can't do that because fine well the guy's going to whip it at the goal and try his luck, which is what he did. And he got lucky, because the goalkeeper was poorly positioned, the wall was dreadful. So, and that seems to be the story of Celtic in Europe with when these things happen. They just sort of happen. They seem to happen at will, don't they, when they're away? And there's so many disappointing aspects to tonight, but the biggest disappointing aspect is the way they shot themselves in the foot. And because they were in it, can talk about it all you want, but they didn't get to 0-0 at half time. Should have got to 0-0 at half time, but didn't. And but having said that, I struggle to see where we actually carved out a goal scoring opportunity. We had some decent attacks, but not a real gilt-edged or goal scoring opportunity. Kyogo's duck continues because he get no service really, did he? Haggerty should have played him in.
The only duck that he broke tonight was ducking for the free kick, unfortunately. That duck that we were talking about before. Sorry, it's one of those nights, guys. It's
been a long day.
It's been a long day, and it is a disappointing end to what has been a long day with regard to Celtic. But yeah, things can only get better. They've got a chance to make it right. Not in the same competition, admittedly, but they've got Livingston at the weekend. A Saturday game. Let's see if they can pull something out of the bag with that.
Listen, I still don't rule Celtic out of this group.
Oh no.
But, playing against these teams at home, it's just I'm not saying I'm not doom and gloom or despondent, because the draw certainly keeps you alive, doesn't it? And it is going to be cutthroat like that. But you're going to have to maximise points from your home games. It's as simple as that, because your next two are in Spain and Italy, and I just, you just think that you'll be up against it, especially with your track record away from home. So, and that tonight was a chance, certainly in the first half, to sort of, stay in it, hang on in there, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it in the injury time in the first half, and I know the manager's still building a team, and I know there's a horrendous injury list. I'm well aware of that, and I'm well aware they've got lots of money in the bank and people want them to spend it. I'm well aware of all of these things, so it's a culmination of both events on and off the field, isn't it? That you can, if you're going to be scattergun about it and blame this and blame that, but I think fundamentally we keep making the same mistakes, don't we? Away from home in Europe.
Definition of insanity.
And it, as I say, it's a painful process. It doesn't get any better. You say it's the hope that kills you, and I was quite optimistic, and I would have even more cause for optimism, because I didn't think they were a great team. I really didn't, and I agree with Martin O'Neill wholeheartedly. I didn't see a Feyenoord. I didn't see the Feyenoord that I thought I was going to see. I thought they were pretty ordinary at times, and with a wee bit more composure and a wee bit more of Celtic players, bringing their A game, the Celtic conceivably could have got something, but as an attacking force, we were quite blunt, weren't we? There was no real threat, and that worries me greatly.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we'll call it a day at 38 minutes, Tony, to be honest. I know we could go in for the full hour, but we do recognise that it is quite late on for both the viewers and for the people presenting the podcast. So, yeah, it's one of those ones that we'll reconvene in the morning to see how we feel about the events of the night before.
We'll sleep on it.
Yes, we will. Sleep on it. Yeah, we will sleep on it. Yeah, we'll give it our best go. I was saying after the game that 2-0 maybe isn't the worst result because of 9 men on the park, but I don't want to get into that sort of attitude. But before we go, guys, and we really do appreciate you still being on. We've got over 200 people on just now, despite it being 25 to 12. That's absolutely incredible, and we really do appreciate every single one of you for being on with us. Through thick and thin, through win, defeat, draw, and everything in between. We really do appreciate you joining us on these shows. It really does help us. Finally, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love, £4 for 4 months, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We're going to break this game down, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure we'll have our guest contributors weighing in on this game about what Celtic can do better. We'll have stats, analytics and opinions coming from the game. We've got Q&As from the manager. Get instant analysis that was completed just about 10 minutes after the game. So if that's what you're interested in and you do want to support us just that wee bit more, then please visit us on www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe and subscribe. I can say the word. How many times are you going to say the word subscribe in the one sentence, Ryan? I can say it all day. And also, I'm going to use that word again, that big S word. If you please subscribe to the YouTube channel, we really would appreciate it. as I said at the start of the video, the numbers for the YouTube videos have been absolutely incredible recently. We're grown from strength to strength. We want to give you the best content that you possibly can want or look for on the internet. So please, if you subscribe, you'll get both pre-recorded content and you'll get notified when we go live, and you can watch those live ones after they've concluded as video forms. So if you are interested, please press the subscribe button, completely free of charge, and you would be doing us a massive favour in doing so. Tony, thank you very much for all your help today. We've been on live 3 times. We've been working through the day and through the night. Really do appreciate everything that you do. So yeah, cheers for joining me.
Feelings very mutual, sir. You know that. Lots of keep the faith messages. Of course, we always keep the faith. Just disappointing when Celtic lose in the Champions League, and just a recurring theme away from home. And you try and come on here and, as I say, be as lucid and as possible. And sometimes it's hard. Things like that make you angry is too strong, isn't it? But just preventable, I think, when you see the goals and stuff like that. But I never lose faith in the team being able to bounce back and give himself a fighting chance in this group. I take anybody against. I would take Celtic against anybody at home in Europe, regardless. So I think it could boil down to that. So Sons of Scotland, Groundhog Day, Tony. Indeed, certainly is. That's the way it feels, isn't it? But
we've went over guys, 40 minutes talking about
guys. Just echo what Ryan says. Just thank you so much. It's 20 to 12 of an evening, and what time do we come on? Just about 5 to 11. We were just tying up loose ends and doing what we do, working. And we love what we do, and we hope you enjoy what we provide here as well. And I can only echo what Ryan says.
Plenty more to come as well. Plenty more to come.
But we need to, I would say, get beauty sleep, Ryan, but they don't make mirrors the way they used to, so those days of beauty sleep I've gone for your old dad here, you know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say those carnival mirrors. Maybe that's what we both think. I don't know.
But, I think so. But you can't change this coupon, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But guys, we'll be back tomorrow, 10 o'clock-ish, something like that, Ryan.
Like we always say, Sean Connery, tennis. That's what that is when we'll be on round about that time. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you all in the morning, and we'll discuss this game and maybe some more positive news coming out regarding the club. But until then, have a good night and enjoy the rest of your night. Cheers.